this is more an assault on the senses than it is a feature film. But let's talk about Kevin James and Alan Ritchson in Amazon Prime's Playdate. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for Playdate. This is streaming now on Amazon Prime. It is getting killed by the critics. It is in the low 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, and many critics calling it among the worst films of the year. I think you may hear some echoing here from me, but we'll talk about the reasons why in just a second. First, though, let me welcome you back to Dan Reviews It. If you are a subscriber already, thank you so much for that. I love it when you guys return to check out my videos, but if you're not, please consider subscribing. Click that notification bell too. That will, of course, alert you for all my new videos coming out. And just liking this video or commenting below, that helps the channel out tremendously. And I certainly do appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about Playdate. Kevin James plays Brian, who is an accountant, recently unemployed, so now he is taking over the at-home fathering duties. And he sets up a Playdate with another stay-at-home dad, Jeff, played by Alan Ritchson. And, of course, if you have seen Jack Reacher, the TV show, you know that Ritchson is this big, hulking dude, ripped with muscles, very tall. So if the idea of him next to, the shorter, schlubby Kevin James is comedy gold to you, then maybe you'll find some things to laugh at in this movie, because this is about the metric of comedy with Playdate. But in any event, the two of them end up being targeted by mercenaries along with their sons in tow, because Jeff reveals that he and his boy are on the run from both the military and the authorities, and that's where we get the action portion of this action comedy. And like I said up front, this is an assault on the senses. I mean, it's just explosion after gunplay after, whatever, car chase. And there's a lot of that, none of it really which looks particularly good. We can start there. I mean, the CGI is not good, and I don't necessarily expect a streaming original film to have, these great big budgets that give us really cool action sequences. But I guess I expect at least the action to be coherent, or at least to care about what's happening, or to look somewhat plausible. All the action sequences look pretty bad here, but that is like far and away, not the least offensive thing about this movie. The humor, we can go back to that, because I already mentioned sort of the dichotomy between the big hulking Alan Ritchson and the pudgy Kevin James. Yeah, I mean, listen, these are the kind of jokes that this movie is giving us, and really kind of like, I don't want to say offensive necessarily, but like really outdated stereotype dad characters. So the Kevin James character, what's his name, Brian, he doesn't know literally how to do anything. He barely knows how to even feed his child. And the kid is like, I don't know if they ever say his age in the movie, but I don't know, he's probably like 9 or 10. Both the kids are. And so you're telling me that this guy has never had to take care of his son for one day, because he just seems completely out of sorts with it. And look, this harkens back to stereotypes from like 80s and 90s sitcoms, where the dad is just such an idiot. He doesn't know what's happening. And, Tim Allen and Home Improvement, and Everybody Loves Raymond. And, there were a whole bunch of these sitcoms back then where the dad is just played off for a moron. And Kevin James's own Doug on King of Queens. They didn't have a kid until I think the last season. They adopted one or something. But in any event, so maybe he wasn't like a father in that show for the most part, but he still played the duh idiot type of husband. And this is what we're reinforcing here with this movie. So that's, and it's not funny. I mean, it's a stereotype and it's outdated, but they found nothing new to do with it. And so the script ends up looking like some kind of a relic from, an 80s or 90s, like Schwarzenegger comedy or something. And on a lesser budget, I guess. But in addition to that, let's talk the plot. First of all, you have some other pretty competent actors and actresses in this movie. You've got Stephen Root, Isla Fisher, Alan Tudyk, Sarah Chalke, and Paul Walter Hauser all aboard. So people that kind of know their way around a film script for sure. And Isla Fisher's character she's sort of the head of this like mom mafia. I forget what they call it in the movie, but it's something like that. And Brian is trying to kind of make his way in. She's not letting that happen. They could have done maybe something interesting with that, and they don't. It makes it kind of one note. The character does resurface later in the movie. That's maybe a little bit clever or something, but the word clever or well written or creative, it really has died a death here with this movie. Other than that, Alan Tudyk as the villain, very, very bland. He's barely in the movie, first of all. And, yes, there's maybe some motivation for the character, but everything's just poorly written enough that it barely matters. And then there's this twist that happens that you can see from a mile away. And I'm not even that big on looking for twists or anything, but it was just so obvious from the first couple of scenes of this movie that something was off with Jeff and his son, and we learn more about that as we go, but none of it's really revealing. And the sons are sort of, completely ancillary to anything even going on when they're on like these chases and stuff. Yes, they factor into sort of the bigger picture, I guess. But for a lot of these like car chases and stuff, they're just in the back with their headphones on watching these inappropriate movies. They're watching like these R-rated movies in the back seat. That's supposed to be, I guess, humorous as well. The kids, by the way, played by Benjamin Pajak and Banks Pierce. Don't really know Banks Pierce, but Benjamin Pajak is in one of my favorite movies of the year, The Life of Chuck. So he went from, one of my favorites to easily, probably in my bottom 10 of the year. Definitely it is so far, but we'll see, how else the year shakes out. But boy, oh boy, this one is just a mess all the way around. However, I'm not failing it, and I'll give you one reason, and there's only the one. It's that Alan Ritchson is selling the hell out of this role. He is giving 110%. My guess is he probably knew this was not going to be a great movie, so he thought, hey, let's at least give it my all, my performance. I will not feel bad about it, and he shouldn't. He is the only thing that saves this movie from an F. And, I haven't seen too much of Jack Reacher. I've seen a couple of episodes in the early days to review it, and then I've seen him in a couple of movies. But this guy has charisma for days, and it is on display in this movie. So not only do you have, that there's that dichotomy of him being, big and hulking and tall and next to Kevin James. We've seen that done to death, but he is a lot more charismatic on the screen, I think, than Arnold Schwarzenegger and some of these other people that we've seen in these types of roles in action comedies. But look, I don't expect much ever really from a streaming action comedy. I can't think of one that's really been like that great. There's some action ones that are good. There's some comedy ones that are good. But, whenever Netflix, Hulu, Amazon try to do an action comedy, it almost always is below average. And this one, definitely on that end of things. I leave Playdate with a D. Not an F, but definitely bottom 10, I should say, of the year so far for me. All right, that will do it. Thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. I'll see you next time.